Thank you all so much. I would just ask the other amazing team member that we have here this evening, Marcia. If Marcia, you could please read the next part. Would you like me to read that?
I don't mind. We do want to let everyone know that if there's any gate crashers or inappropriate behavior in the chat, which is the thing here on Zoom, let either myself or Afia know so that we can remove anyone if they're bothering you or harassing you. Also, no sexist, racist, homophobic language. And that's pretty much it on the house rules. So I guess we can get started. We're all good?
Yes, and so just very quickly, if you could all please mute your microphones, we'll be muting them as well, but if you could all just please mute your microphones unless you are speaking, so that we are just making sure that we're making this experience as joyful and as easy as possible for everyone involved. And yeah, I think that is it. Yeah, so I'm going to pass over to our amazing Caribbean Links team member, Marcia, who's going to introduce our first speaker this evening. So yeah, please clap Marcia, because we clap everyone here. So thank you so much, Marcia. I'm going to pass over to Marcia.
I'm here to introduce Reese. I hope I'm saying that correctly. Reese is a sociologist, social entrepreneur, and the founder of the Black Superstore, which is an e-commerce hair shop, and AXL Events, or is it Axel Events? Which is a specialist event decorating and prop hire company. Reese has a mission to create financially viable businesses that work to benefit the UK's Black community through services provided and help young Black women gain much needed experience in learning business, leading projects, decision-making, and other business savvy skills by providing paid work placements. That sounds awesome. Reese's passion for natural hair started as she decolonized her mind, and since she's been a positive advocate for keeping her hair natural and challenging opposing beauty ideas. So everyone, please welcome Reese.
Thank you. I think I probably start by telling you guys about the company that is kind of the reason why I'm here, and that is the Black Superstore. And so, like Marcia said, we're an e-commerce online, well, we're an online hair store at the moment. We intend to be a full superstore soon once we start selling groceries and kind of widen our product range. But at the moment we sell products that really kind of cater to the needs, culture and everyday lifestyle of people from Black communities. So we sell kind of basic, premium and luxury products for hair. And our main focus and target audience for hair care is natural hair. So I think that I'll tell you a little bit about why we started. And so the Black Superstore was kind of born out of this, out of my own personal frustration for not being able to get kind of everyday essentials, well, everyday home essentials for me. So those were things to do with my hair, those were things to do, just basically being able to order planting and it coming to your house the next day wasn't really something that existed. Or it was super expensive. It was just ridiculous. I should just go to the market. So I was really interested in bringing the African and Caribbean marketplace, so like a Ridley Road market or an East Street market, and bringing that online and making it available and affordable for everybody. And so when we did that, we first started with hair care, and I kind of never expected that other people would feel the need the way I felt it, but it was awesome that they did, because it created a really great viable business. So really in our ethos, the things that we think about and the reason why we're kind of so purposeful in the way that we do things is because we know that there are kind of clear issues with the products that are marketed and sold to to people from Black communities, and we know that there are clear issues with the beauty standards that guide what we buy and the looks that we want to achieve. And we also know that there's a clear issue with racism and colorism within within the beauty industry, and there's also access issues for Black people at mass, kind of trying to get into participating in that industry. So because of those issues, the way we approach things is that we try to make the Black consumer the primary consumer in everything that we do. And so that's in our marketing and in how the kind of descriptions that we use, how our website's design, etc. Yeah, that makes it how do I say, sorry, that makes our business somewhat undesirable for other people. You know, we know that recently we've had this issue with the Sainsbury's advert that was really normal, but it got incredible backlash simply for just having an all Black family in the UK talk about their Christmas and what they were excited for. And so the same exists within the kind of natural hair movement. And like the natural hair movement is enormous, and it encompasses, you know, from kind of like type 1 hair all the way up to type 4. But the issues that we face in that movement is that there's a kind of particular look. And so even when products are actually being marketed to Black people, they tend to be marketed to Black people that look like me, and that have loose curly hair, or manageable curly hair, acceptable curly hair, and we don't really see kind of kinky and coily hair represented. But we do a lot to change that. All of the images that you'll see on our website are usually of dark-skinned Black women, but we do sometimes have some light-skinned people with some loose curly hair, but we try to represent the people that actually buy from us. So most of the products that we sell are targeted to people with coily and kinky hair, and that's kind of who we use in our marketing material. We also try to kind of pass on lots of bits of education through our marketing. And sorry guys, can I just ask one thing? I know that everybody is muted and Afia asked for everybody to mute, but it's a very strange feeling. So if anybody doesn't mind unmuting so that I can have some noise, I don't feel like I'm talking to myself.
I'm unmuted for you.
Thank you so much. I just need something else.
I was wooing in support. I was, you know, when you're speaking, I was making noises in support of you. I'm support what you're saying. Thank
you. It's just a super strange feeling, and I just couldn't get over it that second. But I'm back anyway. So, yeah. So in the communication that we have with people, and so that might be through our email campaigns. It might be just from how information is displayed on the website about a product. We try to give people the knowledge that they need to kind of make informed consumer choices, because that's often what is taken away from Black and brown people, and we're kind of just shoved and put in a corner, and it's like, these are the products that are available to you, and you're kind of gonna like them, or you're just gonna have to use somebody else's products. And I feel like there's a kind of balance that has to be achieved with in the kind of natural hair business, which is like getting the balance between kind of providing people with what they want and providing them with what is good for them, you know, because we do have a duty of care to people that we're working with, and I guess I can give an example. So we know as an industry that perm is harmful. Yeah. And we know that constantly pumping images to people that are modified is harmful, but we also have to kind of respect people's choice to choose, like their right to choose, sorry, if they want to have straight hair, if they want to have chemically rearranged hair, okay. But we as a company, we don't advocate for that. So yeah, we sell perm. And we did kind of notice a trend that during the lockdown period, when there was no access to hairdressers, we had like a kind of like, there was perm just sold loads. But we also have to think about like the kind of longevity and the consequences of what we do. And so yeah, we're definitely big on natural hair, and we would say to people, avoid perm, and that how we kind of practice that as a company is we just don't advertise it. So yeah, we have a section for it. Yeah, you can buy it from us and we will send it to you, but we don't pump this as a beauty standard. And we also don't sell children's perm, because these are kind of these are things that are in line with our values. We don't think that you should use something that is harmful like perm, but we respect your right to choose. And if you want to give me a fiver, you want to give me a fiver, because that's business at the end of the day. But I also think that what makes us kind of different from a lot of the other retailers, hair and beauty retailers, other than being kind of Black owned in the UK, because we know that the industry for hair and beauty is predominantly occupied by white people and Asian people, and we're not really involved in the processes of making, the distribution, or the retail, and so obviously that's one thing that makes us different. But what also makes us different is that we kind of don't budge on who we're trying to sell to, and we know that there's loads of products that we sell that would be perfectly fine for white people, or people just with curly hair, or even with straight hair, or with fair skin, etc. But we don't bother to market to them in the same way that we market to Black people. So I'll give you an example. The company Treatwell, when they kind of first started out, their marketing was incredibly diverse, and they stopped that about a year after, because they weren't being successful, because in the UK market is the default is a kind of white narrative, and then the add-ons are all of the Black and brown people, and we've kind of reversed that with the Black Superstore. But yeah, so I go a little bit. Well, that's kind of the company and our ethos in a nutshell. And I will kind of go into a little bit more about. Oh, how many minutes do I have left, guys? Sorry.
You have got about, I would say, 5 more minutes left, if that's okay.
Yeah. It's fine. So it kind of experiences kind of my personal opinion, I guess, on the natural hair movement, and being natural. And so I have generally worn my hair in its natural state, and I have gone through periods where I have kind of straightened it a lot. That is sometimes to fit into the kind of cut that I've got, or the working environment that I am in, but I've never like chemically rearranged my hair. And I sit here, I guess, from a kind of position of privileged, of being light skinned with hair that is seen as acceptable or palatable or just exotic enough for most environments. But I do have considerable issues with how I choose to have my hair in some working environments, you know. So I once cut my hair really short, and whilst it was growing back, I would wear weave or I would wear braids, and I guess my hair would change often, and I would be in environments where that would kind of be commented on, and I would also be in environments where, you know, if I didn't want to wear weave or I didn't want to have braids, and I might wear like a really nice, really fashionable, what I thought was really nice and really fashionable headscarf, and that would also kind of be commented on, and I always just felt like each experience was about my hair just kind of needed to be spoken about. There was so much emphasis on the difference between me and the other team members, and I'm biracial, you know. I'm half black, whatever the kind of these half things mean. That's a whole a different conversation, but I have lived in this kind of middle ground between being on the acceptable side of stuff and then being a tad too black, and kind of in that experience, although it's not always directly connected to my hair, it might be about my food, it might be about my dialect, etc. But it is always something that I feel that we're combating in this in the UK, you know, living as people that are not the standard or the default here. So I feel like the natural hair movement is impacted by that, and there is a kind of desire often to fit the narrative that is pumped out, and again, the even on kind of on the black natural hair movement side, there is a desire to achieve particular curl patterns, and have certain lengths of hair that are definitely possible, but are still kind of on the still kind of in line with the beauty standards that are not necessarily achievable when you're black, because they're not for you. They're not about you. They just don't fit us. And so I'm really interested, I guess, in connecting with people who want to kind of break down the beauty standards that they're surrounded by. You might not agree with them, you might not live by them, but the beauty standards that you live amongst, and also help to educate other people on what being beautiful means for you, what natural hair means for you, and how you manage it. And yeah, and I guess just kind of go forward like that, and pump that into the Black Superstore as well. So thank you.
I don't want to clap too loud because it might come through on the headset, maybe too loud.
I realised that I was muted. I'm so sorry. I was going to say, can we please give Reese a massive clap for her time for this evening?
Thank
you so
you.
much. Greatly appreciated. Reese, I'm sure that I've been making notes, and I'm sure that there are many people who have loads of questions to ask you. And I would love to know more about your experiences as someone who chooses to wear their hair natural, and your experiences of that specifically in relation to being Caribbean. And I'd love to hear more about that within your culture, within the culture as well. So I'd love to ask you some more questions a little bit later on, and of course the audience will ask questions as well. I am now going to introduce our second amazing panelist for this evening. Dr. Ingrid Wilson. And before I introduce Dr. Ingrid Wilson, I am going to read out her bio. Dr. Ingrid Wilson is a medical doctor and trichologist. She has been a GP since 1999 and is also a qualified consultant in public health medicine. She is a fellow of the Faculty of Public Health. She completed training with the Institute of Trichologists between 2010 and 2012, gaining a distinction in both years and also winning the John Mason Memorial Prize. She is one of the few trichologists in the country who is able to prescribe. She founded Crew Hair and Skin Clinic, which opened in 2019, which helps people with hair loss and cosmetic skin concerns for all skin and hair types. The clinic is one of the few doctor-led clinics in the country specializing in non-surgical hair restoration using tools including DNA testing, detailed digital analysis to support holistic hair care. To find out more, please listen to the Doctor's Kitchen podcast on eating for your hair. I myself will have to check that out. Thank you so much. So without further ado, please can we give a huge Caribbean Links clap for Dr. Ingrid Wilson.
Thank you very much for the introduction, and thank you for the invitation, Afia. And thank you, Reese, for your really candid and informative talk. I really value you sharing that experience with us. So Afia asked me to talk about my motivations for specializing in trichology and my views on natural hair in Caribbean cultures. I must start off with full disclosure. My parents were born and grew up in St. Vincent, which is a small island in the Caribbean, and they came to England in the 1960s. I was born in the early 1970s, and I didn't actually manage to get to St. Vincent until my late 20s. It was incredibly expensive to travel there for a long time. However, I did grow up in High Wycombe, and if anybody's familiar with High Wycombe, it's about 30 miles west of London, and it's got the largest number of Vincentians outside St. Vincent. So I grew up as part of that community until I was 18, when I went to study medicine in Liverpool. However, those early years were key to my identity as part of the African Caribbean diaspora. In my time leading up to leaving home, I felt that there was so much I did not understand about my place in the world as a Black female born in the UK to parents from the Caribbean. I tried to educate myself by reading books, including The Making of the Black Working Class in Britain. And I also read about Malcolm X, the Black civil rights activist in America, who had things to say about his own experience of changing his hair to make it more like the hair of a white person, and the harmful internalization of the hiding of the natural appearance of Afro-textured hair. And this really resonated with me as an 18-year-old, but I was not immune to the pressure that I felt to hide my own natural hair from society by braids, relaxers, texturizers, weaves, and wigs. So usually when most people ask me about my path into the world of trichology, I start with my personal experience of hair loss nearly 20 years ago. But I think several other factors led me into studying trichology. The first was, why was it not a pleasure to buy products for my hair type? This was quite a few years ago, before Boots and Superdrug started to sell products for Afro-textured hair and the advent of online vendors who provide lots of information online. The second factor that led me to studying trichology was, why has it become almost normal for so many older Black women to be losing their hair in significant amounts? The third factor was, why was I expected to either relax my hair, wear a weave, or hide it under a wig? And fourthly, which was the area I felt I could do most about, which was, why did I not know much about hair loss as a doctor when we all grow up and we're told the hair is the window to your health, or it's a good marker to your health. So I'll start off by exploring the medical aspect. Like most GPs, I had received the equivalent of about a few hours training in hair loss before I qualified, and I received absolutely no training specifically on Afro-textured hair loss. Now, to put this in context, it takes about 5 years to train as a basic doctor. And at the time that I trained, the registration year was just 1 year, it's now 2. And then this was followed by 3 years of GP training, so 9 years overall. I qualified as a GP in 1999, and since then, the training as regards for GPs on hair loss hasn't changed much. There was a detailed report by the King's Fund, which looked at dermatology or specialist skin services in the UK, and it highlighted the fact that most GPs had received less than 1 week's training in skin problems before they qualified, which is really significant because it's estimated that about 20% of GP consultations are related to skin. And so by extrapolation, there was even less training on hair. Now, to be fair, I didn't really see many people complaining of hair loss in my early years as working as a GP. I would occasionally see young men who were going bald early. And at that time, GPs were actually allowed to prescribe minoxidil for hair loss, which you can buy over the counter as Regain lotion or foam. However, by my early 30s, I began to experience hair loss. I was getting significant thinning in the middle of my hair at the front, and it was quite noticeable. And at the time, I'd been relaxing my hair myself because I was working long hours and I couldn't get to a hairdresser easily. I was under stress at home and at work, and I don't think I was looking after myself very well. So I got to the point where I wondered whether I should wear a wig or shave off my hair. And again, due to lack of time, I decided to shave off my hair. I was living in Liverpool at the time, and it wasn't easy to get products for my hair type. So I started to wear more makeup. I always wore earrings, always wore skirts and high heel shoes so that I wouldn't be mistaken for a man. And eventually my hair grew back. It grew back long enough for me to start to put extensions back in. But I felt very strongly that relaxers had weakened my hair, so I avoided them after that, and braids became my go-to style. Although I did occasionally wear weaves or straighten my hair with heat whenever I had an interview or an exam where I had to be physically present, because I did feel that I needed to play the game to fit in more with white European values. And this meant that I didn't engage with my own natural hair. It was just something to deal with in between hairstyles. Okay. And like many Black women, I was always on the search for the perfect product. And when I found it, it would often go out of production. Now, my love affair with braids continued fairly untroubled through my early professional years as a general practitioner. And then after training over a period of 5 or 6 years to become a consultant in public health medicine. But then in 2006, I started to work as a consultant in public health medicine in London, alongside being a part-time GP. And it was at that point that wearing my hair in braids most of the time began to be challenged. I noticed that when I was going around London, that almost all the Black women had either relaxed hair or weaves. And my braids seemed to be a problem to people. And I began to hear the odd comment that I was being perceived as rebellious just because I wore my hair in braids. And I thought at the time that something is terribly wrong if my hair worn tidily but not poker straight is seen as a problem. So that and other events led me to conclude that the corporate environment was not really ready for somebody that looked like me just yet. I did a lot of soul searching, and I decided that I would try to find a way of working that didn't require me to be present on a daily basis with poker straight hair every day of the week. At around the same time, I met my partner, who didn't have any hair on his head because of a previous illness. And he told me about his experience of seeing a famous trichologist who wasn't able to help him. And it struck me that as a GP, I probably couldn't have helped him much either. So I decided it was time to start learning about hair loss and the reasons for it, particularly in Afro-textured hair. So I looked around for a course, and I couldn't find one that was specifically for GPs. So I decided to train with the Institute of Trichologists to be a trichologist. And this was a 2-year distance learning course. And I believe I was the only doctor to have ever gone through their training program. Most people come from a hairdressing background. And I learned on the course that it was very common for hairdressers who had Black clients to seek trichology training because they'd seen so much hair loss and hair damage amongst their clients, which they wanted to do more for than just camouflage with weaves. So the trichology training was a great experience. I learned lots about hair loss conditions that affect Black people more and other hair types, but it also stressed that excess heat and chemicals and tight braids and tight weaves needed to be avoided. And I was really pleased to be learning about these problems and some of the things that could be done to help. But I was left with two big questions. One was, why wasn't hair loss covered more in the medical curriculum or GP training? And the second was, what am I supposed to do with my hair now if I'm not supposed to relax it or weave it or straighten it with high heat or use tension styles? Now, what was great about the trichology course was that there were it was a great opportunity to learn about identifying important hair loss conditions. But unfortunately, most trichologists are not able to prescribe, which means that for some hair loss conditions, there can be a delay in getting to the right medication early.
Are you going to put them away?
This is important because many people think that there's a holy grail. I can pick up somebody on the mic.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll continue. Many people think that there's a holy grail for hair loss in terms of a tablet or a product to put on the scalp, but there isn't. It depends on getting the right diagnosis first because there can be many factors contributing to hair loss. I think there's still a long way to go in terms of educating doctors in general about hair loss before they qualify, and even more on educating doctors about hair loss conditions affecting Black people, which can have a significant impact on their appearance. How much time have I got left?
I've just put my microphone on mute. You've got about 5 more minutes, if that's okay.
That's fine, that's fine. So after I finished my training in trichology in 2012, I made sure that I looked out for any educational events that included hair. So I joined a number of societies and travelled up and down the country to attend events, but there were only a couple for Afro-textured hair specifically. But ironically, the lockdown period has provided great opportunities to access really high quality education on Afro hair loss from doctors and scientists doing pioneering work in the USA and South Africa. And I believe this education will be essential for helping to address what has been described as the epidemic of hair loss in Black women. And for a long time, I've been really concerned about how commonplace it is to see Black women wearing wigs to hide hair loss. More and more research evidence is emerging about the impact of hair processing, but that's only part of the picture. There is now evidence that some of the hair loss conditions seen more commonly in Black women are linked to genetics. So there's one hair loss condition called CCCA, which causes permanent hair loss that starts at the top of the scalp and spreads out gradually over a period of years. And a gene was discovered a couple of years ago, which was strongly associated with that condition. But we have to acknowledge that there is a lot of pressure to straighten Afro hair, which goes back hundreds of years. I feel that I was very lucky being born in the 1970s into what was a fairly unique period of time with the wearing of natural Afro hair. And this was intertwined with the phrase, Black is beautiful. And I remember wanting to wear an Afro like my parents and their friends when I grew up. Even the wigs were Afro. But by the 80s, fashions changed and fashions such as the curly perm became more popular. And I remember as a child visiting a particular salon in Shepherd's Bush called St. Clair's. And it was a really glamorous destination for if you had Afro hair and you wanted to get your hair permed. But even as a child, I noticed that women's hair seemed to be getting thinner than it should be, and people were complaining of burning scalps. Now, I know that the chemicals are not as strong now as they used to be, but I think we've now moved into a time when relaxers and weaves became normal. And then there was a period of no longer engaging with one's own hair in the way that previous generations had. And personally, when I finished the trichology course, I found myself in a really strange situation of struggling to find a hairdresser that was simply prepared just to trim my natural hair without relaxing it or blow drying it straight. It seemed that the expectation was that you only had your hair natural when you were between a weave, relaxer, extension or other hairstyle. And that really concerned me. So I started to read Black Hair magazine, and I got real hope when I started to see Natural Afro Hair Makeovers by Charlotte Menser. I wasn't aware of anybody taking her approach before, and I actually drove 170 miles to her salon on Portobello Road in London to get a rod set. I was delighted with the results, and it made me feel really hopeful. And then followed the natural hair movement, and it was absolutely fantastic to see more and more Black women wanting to go natural. And I've had the pleasure and honour of meeting many people who've been really passionate about educating and informing Black women about their own natural hair. Examples of which are the Hair Care Revolution pop-up shops, the Hairology Conference, Natural Hair Club, the Epidemic of Hair Loss in Black Women presentations at the House of Commons, and many others. And what's made me feel really optimistic now is that it's really easier to buy products online formulated for Afro textured hair, and also get really great information about hair care from these platforms. So examples that come to mind are Afrocentrics, Black Venus Beauty and Hair Pop. Also hair coaches such as Anytime Hair Coach have been a really helpful resource for people trying to grow their hair. And I've been really grateful to these people for sending me people who have been experiencing hair loss that they feel needs more help with. Now, during lockdown, a number of Black women have reached out to me for advice because not having access to hairdressers has meant that they've had to confront their own natural hair because they've not been able to access weaves or other ways of concealing their hair loss. And what's really struck me is that before I do online consultations with people, I send them a questionnaire which asks them questions about how they feel. And some of the comments that come back show how devastating hair loss can be. Now, there can be many factors contributing to hair loss, but for some hair loss conditions, wearing your hair natural can make a significant difference to slowing down the progression of hair loss. It's not an easy journey, but we are really fortunate that times are changing and the younger generation are mobilizing to create better education and support to help people wear their hair naturally. And as more Black women go natural, hopefully we will get to the stage where we don't even have to describe it as an entity anymore. I really look forward to that day and look forward to going on that journey with you all. Thank you again for the invitation.
Thank you so much, Dr. Ingrid Wilson. Yes, please, let's give a warm Caribbean Links thank you for Miss Wilson for kindly speaking. Thank you so much. We really, really appreciate it. I have so many, I'm making notes throughout your speech as well. I didn't realize there was an epidemic of hair loss in Black women, so I'd love to hear about that more. And also I'd love to hear about your experiences just specifically within Caribbean culture and growing up and the attitudes to that as well. I'd love to hear more about that. So thank you so much. I'm going to ask my team member Marcia if it's okay if you could please introduce Shea, if you could introduce Shay from House of Shea, if that was okay. Do you have the bio and all of that?
Of course.
Thank you.
Shay is a master lock therapist, natural hair care specialist, and a natural hair and skincare manufacturer. I'm going to put the slide. There we go. Shay wanted to show her community how there is beauty in their hair, whether worn in locks or a natural look or style without the use of toxic chemicals, bleaches, relaxer, and perming damage. Over 2,500 starter lock and transition styles from relaxed perm to natural have been done by Shay and her team. Wow, that's impressive. Side note, that's very impressive. 15 years ago, Shay realized too many people didn't know about their own natural hair potentials. So she set off on a journey to find the answers to her questions about natural hair and hair care to help others. Over the years, Shay sought out the secrets to have a, quote, natural life, the balance of the three major pillars of health, mind, body, and spirit. After studying at the Adornment Institute of Locticians, Braiders, and Natural Hair Specialists in 2005, Shay went on to become a loctician and natural hair specialist. Fast forward to 2020, a massive year of change for many people. She now runs a home-based salon with her team, a plant-based hair and skincare line, Awake by Shafarasha. Did I say that correctly? Alok's product line, Sauce Hair Care, a subscription site with over 1,500 paying and non-paying members, which includes natural hair care, ebooks, challenges, and new clothing. That's amazing. You may have the floor.
Hi, everybody. Hope you're all well. And I know you can't really speak, but hi. It's a bit daunting being one of the last to speak. I've been listening to these two amazing people. I'm thinking, oh my gosh, what am I going to say? But let me tell you a little bit about myself. So my name's Shai Farasha, and I started my natural hair journey personally in 2004. So from the age of 9 years old, I have been a relaxer offender, because those days there, when I was 9, people used to wear Jerry curl and relaxers. Natural hair was not the thing, and it wasn't very nice. So most of the people around me, especially kids my age, all had straight or curly hair. I begged my mum to give me a Jerry curl. But when we got to the hairdressers, the hairdresser didn't give me a Jerry curl, she gave me a relaxer. So my hair was bang straight. And I mean like straighter than straight, blowing in the wind straight. I didn't want it like that. I wanted it curly, like my brother's, because he had a Jerry curl. He had it curly on the top and a bit longer at the back. You remember that style? I can't remember what you call it, but it's not a great
mullet?
style. That's it, a mullet, yeah. He had that look. I thought that looked all right. So I wouldn't mind having mine like that, but it wasn't meant to be. So when the hairdresser said that you can't just revert it back, you've got to grow it out, I was absolutely devastated. I cried for about 2 weeks because I knew that my hair was going to have to stay straight. I just didn't want it straight. So over time, I got used to it being straight. And then obviously with the regrowth, it was completely different to the straight hair. And the two different textures just didn't look good. So what had to happen? It had to get a touch up. And it ended up staying straight right up until I was about 25, possibly 25, 26. And at that point, I was like, you know what, I've had enough of this straight business. I just can't keep doing this. What helped me go natural was my mum. My mum would always flutter between having natural hair and having her hair straight. So she'd have it straight and then she'll grow it out and have it natural and wear an afro. And then she might go back to straight again. So every time I saw my mum with the afro hair, and the way she used to dress, her look and her stature, it used to look very empowering, because she used to wear like a brown leather coat with sharp shoulders and sharp collars. So she looked sharp. And she looked powerful because of the afro. And that look, and the earrings, she always wore earrings always, and a little bit of lipstick. So that look is what I loved. So it made it that bit easier for me to transition over from a relaxer to natural hair. Now, the transition, even though I say it made it a bit easier because I saw my mum that way, but actually transitioning is a whole nother story. So this is where we like to help our clients with transitioning, because it's like what do I do? How do I manage the two different textures? You know, do I plait it? Do I comb it? Do I keep straightening it? How do I continue to maintain whilst I'm growing out a relaxer? So that's something that we help people with. We do consultations on that and talk them through the transitioning, because that part isn't easy. I personally transitioned by having my hair in kinky afro twists. And I don't know if you know much about kinky afro. It's synthetic hair and it's basically made to look like afro hair. So when your hair is twisted and it's transitioning, you cannot really see the difference. It looks more natural than it does relaxed because it's kinky. So that look helped to prepare me for what was coming. Do you know what I mean? So I didn't wear wigs or weaves that were straight, because to me, it didn't make sense. If I'm going natural, I need to try and look as authentic and as much like me as I can. Even though from the age of 9, I've had my hair straight. I don't really know what I look like with Afro hair, but it made sense to wear my hair how it's going to be, if that makes sense, as opposed to wearing it straight, looking more European or looking more Asian. I needed to look like me in the future. So that's why I went for kinky Afro hair. And what was good about that as well is, if you're a person who likes color, you can buy different colors. So sometimes I had bright red, a bit of blue, a bit of gold, so you could still play with it. Sometimes I've had it cornrowed, with the Afro puff at the back, even though I was nowhere near ready for an Afro puff because my regrowth was like this. But because we're the kind of people who like different looks, different styles, it gave me the opportunity to try different styles. So one particular time I went to go to a hairdresser. So I'm based in Nottingham, by the way. Sorry, I didn't tell anybody that. I'm based in Nottingham in the East Midlands. Pretty big Afro-Caribbean community in Nottingham, but quite close-knit. Most people know each other. It's easy to get to anywhere from Nottingham because we're right in the middle of the UK, so you can go north and get there pretty quick, and you can go down south and get there pretty quick. So it's a good position if anybody ever thinks about moving to Nottingham. Anyway, I forgot what I was going to say now. I've got a bit distracted. Can anybody remind me what I said before?
You went to a hairdresser.
Thank you. I went to a hairdresser to ask them to basically give me a treatment and to give me a style, because I'd been just looking after it myself. And, you know, you just want to have a little treat and go to the hairdressers. And these times I'd already actually chopped off my relaxer myself. And then my mum kind of neatened it up a little bit, but it still weren't the one at the time. So I went to the hairdresser to get her to do it. And all she kept on asking me to do was to texturize my hair. Like, you know, straighten it, texturize it. What are you leaving it like this for? You need to texturize it, texturize it, texturize it. I was like, I don't want to texturize it. I've just had like 20 years of relaxer. I am ready for my natural hair. So when I convinced her that I'm quite fine with it just left in the Afro, you know, she was fine to let me go like that, I had to start to think like, this isn't on. We can't go to the hairdressers with our natural hair and then they're going to try and tell us that we need to look European still, or not even try and encourage me to grow my natural hair or give me any advice on what I can use on it. So back in 2005, I started to look for anything to do with natural hair, locks, everything. Like, I was well invested in it. I was interested in it to like 1,000%. I managed to find an event at that time called Adornment. Now, Adornment specialized in African wearable art, natural hair, locks, artifacts, everything. It was a massive like conference. It was big. So I went to that. When I went there and I saw the multitude of Black people in different forms, but with different eccentric looks, I was in awe. I still am. When I look back at how amazing and how beautiful we look, the jewelry, handmade jewelry in gold, silver, beads, wood, anything you can think of to do with our look, our lineage, it was there. And one thing that stood out to me was the loctician, braiders, and natural hair specialist course on a leaflet. And when I saw that, I thought, you know what? I'm actually going to do that, you know. I like doing hair, but didn't really think about doing hair as a business. But because I can't find anybody to do my hair in its natural state, then I might as well go and learn myself. So I paid for the course. It's a paid for course for 6 weeks. And that course changed the course of my life and my career forever. Because since then, I have never looked back. I've met many, many, many nice people who are in the industry over the years. And I have been specializing in locks mainly since 2007. And it's been the best thing I could have done ever. I also started to manufacture my own products because it made sense, because at that time there were people making products, but I felt like I just wanted to make my own. So I also went on a course to learn how to make natural cosmetics, how to manufacture natural cosmetics. And from there, I've been doing that basically. Not sure what else I want to tell you. How long have I got left?
I think you're coming up to the end now, if that's okay.
Okay then. So going natural is definitely a movement, and it's a movement that I would encourage most people to take, because you will give yourself the feeling of euphoria, power. You are yourself. You don't have to worry about your hair reverting back to being straight at any time, or if your wig is a bit at an angle or anything like that. It takes you away from any toxic chemicals that are in most of the products that are out there. I encourage you to read ingredients and to learn and find out what these ingredients are. Once you do that, it will start to steer you away from the harsh chemicals like the relaxers and the perms, the glues that they use to spritz and spray down wigs, bonding glues. The toxins soak into your bloodstream. It's not good. It's something that I do urge anybody out there thinking about transitioning to go and research and find out. Or if not, you can come and see me. Yeah, I hope that's okay. If there's anything you want to ask me, feel free to ask any questions.
Thank you very much, Shay, for that. Can we give Shay a massive Caribbean Links clap for her time? Thank you very much, Shay. I was listening a lot to what you were saying and hearing about your hair journey and how that course changed the course of your life. So thank you for sharing that with us. And I'm really looking forward to hearing more and more about kind of how natural hair was within Caribbean culture. So I'm really looking forward to hearing more of your thoughts. We are now going to have our audience questions and comment section of the event. So Marcy and I will be the moderators, and we will be looking for different questions whether people are posting in the chat box to ask all of you, and hopefully you can give us some answers to those questions. I actually had just one question for all of you, if you could all answer just before I turn it over to the audience. I would like to know, for the three of you, what were your personal experiences with natural hair being Caribbean? What do you think Caribbean culture, what do you think is the attitude of Caribbeans or Caribbean culture towards natural hair?
Shall I answer first? Can you hear me? Well, it's changed a lot recently, but I hope
my internet has not gone off.
No, you're good.
I think it's changed a lot in the last few years, but when I first went on my journey, I've got an auntie, and she says to me one day, she stroked my hair and says, "Oh, it used to be so long and straight. Me used to love it, you see, when it was straight." So the Caribbeans can be kind of harsh. I mean, their mind has been locked for a very long time, especially with colonization. And it's only, definitely in the last 5 to 10 years that they've been embracing natural hair and locks. So I'm just hoping more and more people will start to go towards that, definitely. But yeah, my personal experience is that they preferred me with straight hair. And I was defying everyone by going natural, having an afro, and then loxing it up after that. Why? I did the worst thing you can think of. But that's my answer.
I think for myself, I would have to agree. And the reason why I say that is because my hair was adored by all of my family, and it was like, oh, it's so soft and it's so this and it's so loose and curly, and it was kind of everything that they wanted. And as I grew up, that kind of became a complex for me because I looked to them as like really beautiful dark-skinned Black women, and they looked to me like, well, no, this is what we want to have. You've got what we want to have. And I feel like that is also kind of part of my mission, because, you know, I know someone asked in the chat, what did I mean by privilege? And I guess that this feeds into it, that I didn't have to experience those negative remarks because I was what they thought they should be. And you only achieve this by dashing some white in it. So it's like you need to, they were just kind of locked out of the idea that being a my heritage is sorry, I didn't tell you guys this before, but my heritage is English and Jamaican. And so they were locked out of the idea that without the European side, you know, you could be beautiful and that you could have amazing hair, and that nice thick or really curly or really coily afro hair was the sort of hair that you should have. And I also feel that, yes, that's changed a little bit, and yes, like loads of my family now have locks, but on the other side, some of them that are like now quite British kind of think it's insane that I want to lock my son's hair. And I still think that there's kind of a long way to go on how we look at the hair that grows naturally from our heads.
Dr. Wilson, if you're still there, do you have any thoughts about kind of your own personal hair journey being Caribbean and Caribbean attitudes towards natural hair?
I suppose we've all got a different experience. And I would say I grew up in a Caribbean community until I was 18. And then for most of my adult life, I've been really living quite a nomadic existence. So not really being part of a community on a day-to-day basis. But I suppose I would say that growing up, straighter hair was something that was seen as making yourself look smarter, making yourself more acceptable. But on the other hand, what I feel really positive about was that I grew up amongst lots of cousins who had their hair natural until they were 18. And unfortunately, I think what happened was that time that we were growing up collectively was a time in which we were starting to disengage with our hair. And I suppose, as I said earlier, I didn't really realize how much of a problem natural hair was until I started to try and function in the corporate world in London in the late 2000s. And then I began to realize that it was a big problem for people from all kinds of backgrounds, because the Western European ideals are internalized by all races. It's something that we have to fight, and other races expect from us, because they don't have to, they're aware of the history of the white European ideal of beauty. So I wouldn't like to make any generalizations. It's just, I think, just be aware of the history, just be aware of where all of this comes from, colonialization and really changing people's mindsets about how beautiful they are. Because if your ideal is something that you can never be, i.e. a European person with straight hair, then that feeds into your psychology, that can feed into people's psychology quite deeply. And if we turn it on the other side, if we embrace our natural hair and realize and just embrace the fact that it grows away from our heads, it grows to the sky, it's so versatile, then I think that's really what we need to focus on. And I think things like this event are great because it just helps us to reinforce the concept of natural hair, and let's keep moving forward.
Thank you very much for that, all of you, for those contributions. I'll just say, before I hand over to Marcia and our amazing audience, I have to say, I don't know if this is true, but I've noticed maybe different Caribbean countries have different attitudes towards natural hair. Because I remember when I went to Barbados, I was just so in awe, because it seemed to me that everyone was wearing locks, everyone was wearing their hair in a natural style, and it was something that I hadn't seen before, from going on holiday to different Caribbean countries. So yeah, I just thought I'd add that. But I'm going to now pass over to Marcia and pass over the floor to the amazing audience.
Right, so we have quite a few questions. So yeah, just a reminder, everyone, you can start listing your questions in the chat box and I'll read them out. So, right, there's a couple questions that have to do with locks. So I don't know who wants to, if everyone wants to answer, but what are...
Over to the experts.
Yeah, what are some suggested products for locks specifically? Do you have any suggested products?
Suggested products, yeah. Locks tend to be quite dry, so you need to keep them pretty moist. It's good to hydrate your hair, your locks, your hair. I still call it hair because it's just like larger strands of hair, to be honest. Because it can be quite dry, you do want to make sure you can penetrate with moisture so it doesn't start to get brittle. I make my own. We use a lot of oils, botanicals and butters in our products. Behind me, we've just launched Thos Hair Care, and we've got 3 steps, and it's to hydrate first of all, then to moisturize, and then to seal and sheen, to seal in all the moisture you've just put in. So you want to make sure that you do not use products which are water soluble, that don't wash out. Because I don't know if you've ever seen locks that have had a build up in the ends, a bit of lint, a bit of atmosphere, fluff, dust, product build up. That can happen when the product just doesn't wash out, it just sticks in there. And those products are ones with lanolin, ones with petroleum, beeswax, waxes, anything strong and heavy like that. You need to avoid it because it just clogs up and starts to stick in the lock, and it's very difficult to get it out. When you do want to get it out, you end up having to be kind of drastic, and either some people might get tweezers, which I funnily have on my table, tweezers, and they start to pick it out from the ends. And when you do that, you end up with near enough no lock left, because your molted hair that's molted into the lock might just start to pull out, the fluff comes out, everything comes out with it. So it's not really something you want to do. Prevention is better than cure. Some people end up having to do apple cider vinegar rinses to help to loosen and shift the lint and the build-up from these heavy products, which you really do need to avoid. And it sometimes doesn't come out straight away. I don't know if you've seen videos of people doing apple cider vinegar rinses, and they show like a lot of dirt in the water and things. You might not get it out in one setting. It's something that's usually gradual because it can be so caked in. And then you're going to need something that strips it a bit, so like a slightly harsher shampoo to really remove the dirt and the fluff, and those things you want to avoid. So you definitely need to be using products that can be washed out. And don't use too much, everything in moderation. Don't cake it in. Don't think, oh, this lock's got to stay twisted, so I need to use as much gel as possible. No, you don't. You could literally just use water and retwist your hair. What helps your roots to stay in is it transitioning from being wet to dry. The same with twists. You know, sometimes you might do your 2-strand twist with dry hair, it just doesn't stay in. But if you twist it whilst it's wet with a bit of moisture and then dry it, that twist will stay in without the need of gel, petroleum, lanolin, waxes, stuff to cake and hold your hair together. And what's the other thing lots of people are using now? Edges, edge potions and create gels and stuff. Some people have been using that to retwist the hair. That clogs up. It's too thick. It's just too thick. You just don't need anything like that on your hair. So products that can wash out. If you was to be on the high street, to go out on the high street, and I'm a bit behind with that because I've been making my own for so many years, but I would say stick to what's in your kitchen. So your oils that are in your kitchen, use those on your hair. You're good to go. If you know somebody who's got a bit of shea butter, use that on your hair. Coconut oil, you can use that, not too much, just a bit. Use that on your hair. It can be a little bit drying sometimes, you know, coconut oil. So that's definitely something you want to look at. And with olive oil, sometimes it can make some people's scalps itch. So it's trial and error. So you want to give yourself at least 30 days trial with natural products to see if it works for you or not. And then try something else. But yeah, I hope that's answered your question. I hope.
We have another question. This is for all the presenters. Is the importance of public education was clear from all presenters. How do the respective presenters use their voice in sharing information and building networks?
I'm happy to go first. I write, I do a lot of writing. So when lockdown started, I reached out to a number of aesthetics magazines. So I wrote a number of articles about hair loss in people with Afro-textured hair and what to consider when consulting with patients. So on my link tree, I've put links to a few articles. I participate in webinars on Afro hair. So during lockdown, I collaborated with a trichologist, Lorna Jones, who does a lot of webinars. There's the various events. So I mentioned Hairology Conference. There was a Natural Hair Club. So any opportunity that I can use to educate and inform people, but hopefully not in a patronizing way, I do try and take, because I'm really passionate about this issue.
Oh, you can go if you.
You go. It's okay.
Okay. Unlike the other lovely panelists, I'm not a hair expert, and so I would never claim to be or try to put out that sort of information. But what I try to do is gather that information and kind of collate it in a way that people can understand through our blogs, and I guess one of the main things that I feel that is my responsibility as a business owner that purposefully sells products to mostly Black women, if I'm honest, is to provide material that decolonizes the mind, and that is really about showing people images of themselves or people that look like them, that are beautiful, and are natural. And so that's the way in which I try to share knowledge with the public, and also kind of give information sessions on or like snippets of information on the history of natural hair, and build people's connection back to something that they may not be seeing anymore. So yeah.
when I first started, I used to jump on so many different speaking events and go to trade shows and go to conferences and get myself involved in everything. In recent years, I haven't done as much, apart from mostly adding to my website, where I've got some information on there. We've just set up a forum, which we're not using much, but it is there. So we want to use that forum a lot more to get the knowledge and information out there to our customers. We do have members on our site, so we can send out emails and things like that and send information out. So I want to do that more. I don't do it as much as I should. I do have a YouTube channel, which I'm trying to build. I have a few videos on there which do go into hair care and what to use on your hair, all that kind of thing, how to retwist. So we've got two. We've got the one for my business, the House of Shea, and on there we mainly show how to, a few little tips on there. There's not a lot, but there's a few videos on there. And then I have my own, which is called Shy's World, and I do like to try and share more knowledge and information on that. Do also have social media, Instagram and Facebook and Pinterest and Twitter, which I can share at the end with you all. So you can catch us on there where we try and share information there also. But yeah, that's about it really. I think I'm definitely going to be doing more now. And I've got a lot of information in my head that's about to burst that needs to be shared with everyone. So, and because I've done so many clients and I've looked after so many men and women with their natural hair, with their locks, with transitioning, I've done consultations where I've done lots of one-on-ones with people. Everyone is so individual, even though we've got coils and natural hair and we've all got something similar, but we're still all individual. So it's that individuality that I want to share as well.
Right. Dr. Wilson, is hair loss much worse here than in the West Indies because we are also battling the climate and harsh water, or are they experiencing the same thing?
It's a really good question, actually. I have to be honest and say, I don't really spend enough time in the West Indies to be able to give you a fully informed comment, but there has been a lot of interest on the effect of hard water and hair in recent years. And actually cosmetic shampoos have changed to try and reduce the negative impacts of hard water on the hair, because it can make hair dull and brittle. And this is more of an issue in the southeast of England, where there's more hard water than in the northwest. So I'm afraid I can't comment specifically on the difference in the Caribbean and the type of water there.
That's an excellent question, though. All right. Will we ever get to a point where hair isn't such a contentious point of discussion or exploration for Black people?
Oh, I think that's a pretty good question. I think the way our society is now and how we are still learning about our hair, it's gonna take time. It's going to take time. People are still learning. There's people still with the negative connotations, even though we're more visual. You see us more. You see the beautiful styles out there more. It's still going to take time. So you've got to have some patience and be prepared to be passing over the knowledge for quite a while and doing things like this and keep it up. We've got this thing of like repeating ourselves, because as I think Ingrid mentioned earlier about in the 60s, 70s, when people were wearing afros, I mean, we've come back round again and we're doing it again. It's like we're on repeat. We don't just stick to our own look. We go with trends. We don't stick to it. So let's just see, because we're back to natural again after like 40 odd years. So let's see. It's going to be patience, I think, personally.
I agree. I think we're back to natural, but a different kind of natural. So I was saying to my other half, I really look forward to the day when I can just have my hair out completely the way that God made it. But I only really make it as far as the corner shop with my hair like that, because you just get so many comments from people. So I think there is a long way to go, but I think the more we share information, the more confident we feel with it, the better it will be eventually. But it's got to come from confidence within people who have this hair, being able to share information and carry on learning, because I know from personal experience, it can be really disheartening trying to learn on your own, just not knowing what to do, thinking, why is my hair not healthy? Why is this shampoo not good for my hair? And fortunately, there's so many online events, online education that's run by people who are increasing their knowledge about natural hair, that I'm feeling hopeful that it will get easier for people as time goes on. And hopefully we will get to that time when natural hair is no longer, in the Afro textured hair community, is no longer an issue.
I think that it's part of a larger process of dismantling ideas that are anti-Black, and with that, hair being a very important part of many Black cultures, will come the kind of embrace of natural Black hair, and also people changing the language that they use, even kind of like product descriptions. And the reason why I talk about that was obviously we sell products and we have to think about how we market them. And what do we say? Are we saying try to tame your hair, make it, manage it, make it be less unruly, and all of these sorts of things that we use to describe Afro textured hair? When we make it sound like something that's undesirable, it isn't something that will be desired. So, just thinking about how do we describe ourselves? How do we describe the textures of other people's hair? How do we describe the natural hair? And when we kind of are introspective about that and think about how that feeds into anti-Black narratives, I think that will be a lot closer to living in just living so that the hair that grows from your head is the default position that you start from. And so you then have to think, oh, am I going to be wild and perm it instead of am I going to be wild and keep it natural?
Yeah.
How much time do we have left? So I still have a couple questions left. Right. Let's see. What shampoos are recommended for locks or natural hair?
You don't want anything too harsh at the minute. If you want to go to the high street, say if you wanted to go to, you want to go somewhere quick and easy, like Asda, you always think, oh, there's nothing there, but you can actually pick up a couple of bits and bobs now. There's one particular brand called Maui. They do have some vegan lines as well. I think you say Maui, I don't know how you pronounce it, Maui. That one, we've tried it on locks, so we use it now, and it doesn't strip the hair. It doesn't like leave a residue. It's actually really nice. We use that. That's pretty good. If not, and you want to use obviously Black owned products, there's Talia Waid, there's As I Am, there's Shea Moisture, there's who else I could think of any more. Can't think of any more off the top of my mind, but I'm sure Reese will be able to tell you quite a few because she's got her superstore. So I'm going to swing it over to Reese to continue.
I don't know if Shay's internet. She's, I think her screen's stuck. I'm not sure.
Oh, I
Did you
caught
hear
what she
me?
said.
Did you get me?
Is it?
Yeah, I
Maybe it's
did.
just
I
me.
got
Maybe
you.
it's my. Maybe it's my.
Oh. So I was basically saying, if my screen was stuck for anybody out there, I'm not sure if you heard me say this already, but there's Talia Wajid, there's As I Am, Shea Moisture. I couldn't think of any more off the top of my head. I should have written some down, but I was saying that Reese, because she's got her superstore, she'd definitely be able to continue the list of shampoos to tell you what to use. But personally, if you just want to go on the high street and just grab a quick shampoo, then Maui is pretty good. Definitely.
I can't give you a list that would be great for just looks, but well, I guess to just a question, and about kind of black owned companies. There's also Design Essentials. There's Curls. There's Kinky Kinky Coily. There's a few others that are black owned. If you visit our website, we have like a little tag that tells you all of the companies that are black owned. But when it comes to the big brands that are black owned, what I would say is that they may have been black founded but may no longer be black owned, but it depends what your position on that is. So if you really want to support kind of black owned businesses, you might want to look for kind of grassroots businesses, small companies, and most of the time they're making like natural products as well, so if that's something that you're into. But then you've also got companies like Afrocentrics that I think was mentioned earlier, and they're kind of like medium sized. You've got Flora and Curl, also another medium sized and UK based. So yeah, but there's loads, there's absolutely loads of black owned businesses out there that are making shampoos. There's loads on our website that I haven't mentioned that aren't from like the big brands, that you can literally only get from a couple of sites like our own or their site directly. But yeah, if you're trying to shop black owned, you won't have an issue. You just may not be able to get it on the high street.
The only thing I would add to that is make sure that your shampoos are sulfate-free shampoos formulated for Afro-textured hair, because sulfates like sodium lauryl sulfate, sodium laureth sulfate can be very drying for Afro-textured hair and can make it brittle and prone to breakage. And just following on, the three main vendors that come to my mind when thinking about Afro hair products are Afrocentrics, Black Venus Beauty, and Hair Pop.
We have another one. I often get pushback because I tend to mostly favor short or shaved styles. Most of this, I believe, is due to the perception of short black hair on a Black woman in particular is seen as masculine or a temporary stopgate. Not everyone can, will, or wants to have and grow long hair. So how can we push forward to change these attitudes?
I think short hair is powerful. I don't know about you, but I also love a ball head. Ball heads look amazing. I think, I don't know how many people think like that. I don't know if it's just me that thinks that short hair, bald head, teeny weeny afros looks good all day long. I don't know what kind of experience you've had with it. I mean, I've had short hair before, and I didn't have anyone say it looked masculine, but I do know that people do have that kind of thought pattern. I just think keep wearing it and keep having confidence, and the more people who wear the hair like that and are confident, the more people's mindset is going to have to shift. It's just going to have to. Do you know what I mean? I haven't got a direct answer for that, but to me, all natural looks and styles look good. I love it. So it's power all day long.
I'm going to plug a friend of mine named Ruth, who is doing a project on bald Black girls in the chat right now. So you can check that out.
That would be good.
I think there are.
Well,
Oh
sorry.
no, go on, Ingrid. Go on.
Well, I was going to say, I shaved my head. I wore hair shorts for quite a long time, and I really enjoyed it. It was an excuse to get lots of big earrings, lots of jewelry, wear makeup, buy more heels. So short hair doesn't have to mean that you have to go completely masculine. There's other things as well as your hair that make you feminine as well.
Yeah, I think that the idea is the problem is more around the ideas of femininity and what fits into that. And there's a kind of desire to all be Rapunzels, white, black or not. Like, you know, that we want to have long hair and we want it to be beautiful, and that is something that makes us beautiful. So the absence of it means that we're closer to being like men. And I just think that that idea kind of just has to be broken down by being able to combine your short hair with other things that you think are beautiful about your own femininity, and people will then see that, hey, like that looks good on women. And I really think that the only way kind of to break down those ideas is for people to see it. That's how they see, oh well, I was wrong, you know, they've had their idea challenged.
Agree, definitely. Just got to wear it.
Absolutely.
There were any other questions that maybe I missed in the chat that anyone wants to ask? Or you, I think you
I
can
saw
also
someone ask me.
I guess advice for thinning roots is, I think I do remember seeing that now. It's for thinning roots on locks. Yes, excuse me.
So that's like a question for both me and Ingrid. What I would say is thinning, like as Ingrid knows, is there's many reasons and facets for thinning in the first place. When it comes to locks, obviously, if your hair's thinning, it can mean that you can start to lose your locks start to grow a lot thinner, and it can cause a problem. I would say if you're somebody who plays with your locks a lot, twiddles with it, twists it a lot, you need to stop that. You need to limit the how you pull up your hair, because if you're pulling it up tight all the time, you're going to put more tension on your follicles. These things can cause traction alopecia. You want to make sure you lessen how often you retwist your hair, interlock your hair, or even style it. And you want to make sure you keep your hair hydrated, because if it's going to get dry and brittle, you're going to make the thinning even worse. But again, thinning there's many reasons for thinning, and it's definitely something that you should not take lightly. I see hair loss, as something quite serious, to be honest. And I think we leave things for too long. Oh, it's going a bit thin, and it's fine. It's not fine. That needs to be sorted out. Me, myself, I've recently gone through hair loss because I was pulling my hair up way too tight, even though I know not to. And trust me, I know better. But when I'm doing hair or I'm doing something and my hair is just falling in my face, I'll grab the sides and I'll tie it like that. And it's tighter than what I think. So basically earlier this year, what happened? Traction alopecia all down the sides. So hence the reason why I made these products behind me to help sort it out. And it actually did, but that was being consistent. So keeping my hair hydrated, keeping it moist, not pulling it, finding ways like this, having it loose. So I've got it pulled back, but this is loose. You can move this. This is not tight in the slightest. And then I've just got this section of hair just pulled round, tucked in, and it's loose. I haven't got anything tight. So I think in regards to the thinning, you need to definitely find the solution, and Ingrid can help you with that. I can help you with how to maintain it and look after it, and also find ways to avoid your hair thinning. But once it started to thin, look at what you're doing right now with it. And from there, you can decipher what to do next. I hope that helps.
That was a brilliant, comprehensive answer. You know,
Thank you.
I have little to add other than that. I mean, there are many causes of hair thinning, including general illness. So I'll just illustrate with one example. There was a lady I saw about a year ago, and she had general hair thinning, and I recommended that she just get some basic blood tests from her GP, including a test that screens for lupus. And lupus is more common in Black women. And although this woman's not Black, she actually came back with a positive test for lupus. And so one of the presenting signs of it can be generalized hair thinning. So I would say my main message is, you may have a hairstyle that may lead to that may increase your chances of traction alopecia, but always be aware that there could be many other things that could be contributing to hair loss. So best to get it checked out if you're not sure. And I must also end by apologizing for anybody that I haven't responded to privately. I lost connection partway through this broadcast, so I lost my my chat history. So apologies if I haven't responded to anybody who sent me a message privately.
I repent as well. Me too. I haven't had a chance to answer everybody. I think I've answered one person, but hopefully we can share contacts at the end. So if anything, you can just holler back at me and I'll try my best.
Yeah.
Please
Back
do.
to
Might be good if the panelists want to quickly put like any social media handles in the chat box, so that way everyone else has a chance maybe right now to copy and paste.
Yes, please.
So that you can follow whomever you shall wish to. We do have another question. What recommendations do the panelists have to restore shine to hair, which is becoming gray, if you do not wish to color it? So don't want to color gray, just want to make sure that it's, I guess, a very sparkling gray.
Definitely keep it hydrated. It's my favorite word. Keep it hydrated and keep it moist, and it will be shiny. And make sure you wash your hair at least. It depends, because everyone's different. That's what I've found, right? I've got customers who like to wash their hair every week or every 2 weeks or every 3, maybe on the 4th. So by the time usually you get to the 3rd or 4th week, that's when your hair's starting to look a bit dull and a bit lack of luster, and it's a bit flat maybe. So find like a happy medium. How long does your hair stay hydrated and moist for? Does it and shiny for? When you find that point, that's when you know you need to rehydrate or maybe give it a gentle cleanse, not even a full on wash, sorry. You could just give it a gentle cleanse, zhuzh it up a bit, re-moisturize it, and then your silver hair is glistening again. Looks beautiful. So try that, see what happens. But you definitely want to kind of log your hair, pay attention to it, see what it likes from what it don't like, and then take it from there. And you'll know exactly when your hair is happy and shiny and beaming from when it's dull and crisp and not doing what you want it to do, basically.
Crisp.
I think that's a brilliant answer. And just to follow on from that, often when people come and see me and they're experiencing hair loss, they do ask about, how do I cover my grey hairs? What's the safest way without damaging my hair? And I think the advice that I generally give is henna, because henna is a conditioner and a dye as well. But obviously be careful with your with where you get it from. Make sure you do the appropriate tests first, and that should help with greys and hair conditioning.
We're talking about grays, like I'm growing out my sides, which I don't think anyone can tell right now, because all of the gray hair that I do have growing has been just getting shaved off for like the last, I don't even know how many years. So I'm feeling really, respectable and esteemed with like my 1-inch gray hairs that are growing in. So I'm ready to take on this advice to have sparkly grays. So thank you.
I know exactly what you're talking about. Last year, because my grays are coming through too, by the way. So last year I was battling between dyeing it and let it go grey. Shall I dye it or shall I let it go grey? I didn't really want to go grey. I'm not going to lie. I don't really want to go grey. I want my black hair. But at the same time, it's kind of like the hassle of dyeing it. It's just like, do I have to keep doing this every month? Dyeing it. So earlier this year, I made up my mind that, right, that's it. I'm going to dye it for the next 20 years and I'm not going to argue with myself anymore. But I lied to myself yet again. So just recently, I've decided to just try and leave it. So I'm going to be doing what I was just advising to do, because I can see when it goes dull and the grays go dull, I do not like it like that. I do like it to glisten a little bit. So what I do with mine personally now is every 3 weeks, mine gets washed, because by the time I reach 3 weeks, it's dull and it's a bit heavy. It's like it's a bit weighty. It's not as light and fluffy. It's like the strands aren't filled up, if that makes sense. So that's when it needs to be washed. And then I'll wait a week and then I'll retwist my roots. So I won't wash it again. I'll just hydrate it again, just wet it, then retwist it after a week, and then it's left again for 3 weeks. And that's like my system. So it's washed that 3 weeks, moisturized and everything, and left. After a week, is moisturized again and retwisted, and then left again for 3. So that I literally just washed my hair 2 days ago. So it's been washed and left. So it's not ready for a retwist yet. So that's why it looks like this. It looks fuller and kind of bouncy, if you know what I mean. So when I retwist it, it is going to be a little bit flatter because the roots are going to be neat. You'll see all the partings all around here and everything. But that's basically my routine with mine. So yeah, I hope that helps somebody. Who's going silver?
Thank you very much, Shay. I think we've just got time for 2 more questions.
I mean, I think I've caught up with as many of the ones that I've seen. Does anyone else have a question? I think
we'll probably just take 1 more question then, just 1 more.
Advice in incompetent split ends. I really love that. That's a great phrasing.
Incompetent split ends. Well, it depends what you're doing with your hair. What are you doing?
Sorry, the spelling was wrong. It's incomplete split ends.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Incomplete split ends. Sorry. I spelled it wrong. It was just, yeah.
Incomplete split ends.
Yeah.
What do you mean by incomplete split ends?
So, well, I noticed in my hair, I think I've seen the term also frequently, where you have like a gap in your hair, a split, but it's not at the end of your hair. It's in the middle of the strand. Oh, I noticed in the middle of the strand. The middle is my hair, on occasionally some other people's hair.
So how do you manage your hair at the moment?
Presently, my hair is in locks.
So your locks.
So I thought. So, like maybe I said that. Basically, I was natural for a very long time, and relaxed before that. But then when I went back natural, just taking care of myself and looking at it, I started noticing I would get the gaps and spacing in my hair, and it wouldn't be all strands. It would suddenly be some strands, and not necessarily located in any space specifically.
I didn't
Sorry,
hear
I was trying to make out what you were saying
Oh, okay.
without interrupting you. So sorry.
No problem. Is this better?
That's loads better, yes.
Okay, cool. Sorry. Apologies. So I was saying I experienced incomplete split ends, so or mid-strand split ends where it would just, I guess I would look at my strand and it wouldn't be at the end, it will be somewhere in the middle, and then I will see the gaps in it. And presently my hair is in locks, but previously I was natural for a couple of years.
What I would say, it depends on how you used to look after your hair, how you used to comb it, treat it, moisturize it, style it, because having split ends halfway through the hair is definitely something to do with your hair being quite brittle. It could also be to do with your diet, all sorts of factors, and how you're combing it, how you're styling it, if you're coloring it. So it's all those things that you need to look at. So when you're taking care of curly hair or afro hair, natural hair, you really have to take your time in terms of styling it, because it's seen as hair that's really, really strong and durable, but it's actually quite delicate and it has weak points in it. So if you're straightening it as well, and you've already got weak points, you're straightening out the weak points and making it even weaker and brittle and almost ready to break. So you really need to take time in terms of looking after the hair and making sure you keep it moist and hydrated. You're combing from the ends up to the root, and you're picking it, and you're doing it in sections from the back all the way up to the front of the hair. And when you're styling it, you're not using any high heat or blow drying it with a really high setting, or blow drying it until you've completely changed the coil pattern. You're just drying it to dry it, not to straighten it if you're using a blow dryer. It's best to towel dry if you can, and twist it or plait it instead of using a blow dryer. Let it dry naturally with product on it to keep it moist. And instead of combing it rough at times, so for instance, I've just mentioned combing it from the ends, but sometimes it's also best not to even comb it. It's good to put like a bit of oil on your fingertips with your hair damp, and definitely make sure it's damp. And from the ends, use the oil on your fingertips and just start to pick the knots out at the bottom, and just finger comb it gradually, and you're gradually working this oil through, and it's helping you to comb out any lugs or knots in your hair, so you're not causing any tension or damage, because you really have to be mindful of how rough you are with your hair. You might think you're not rough, but most of the time we are. So it's best to definitely make sure your hair is a bit damp and you've got some form of oil or moisturization on it before combing it rough and styling it. Stay away from heat. Try not to color it too much. Don't use any harsh chemicals on it. Treat it like it's your baby and look after it, basically. And then in regards to split ends as well, you need to trim your hair at least twice a year, if anything. Give it a little trim. You could even give it a skim. If you've got an afro and you can't go to the hairdressers, comb out your afro or finger comb it out a little bit, get the scissors and just skim along the top. That can help. So yeah, another way to trim, you could twist it up and then just trim along the twist the little bits of hair that stick out. That helps to remove split ends. I can't think of anything else, but yeah, I hope that helps with your with the split ends in the middle of your hair. And then in regards to locks with weak points, usually weak points are near the end, And it's kind of common, and it's common because the end of the locks is like the oldest part of the lock. So if you haven't really been keeping it moist and looking after it much, or putting it in tight styles, it can cause tension and it can cause the hair to separate. Also, if there was once a hoop on the lock, that can stretch out and become a weak point. So it is quite normal. You can kind of save it by crocheting the weak point with a crochet hook. You can like fold it on itself and crochet it, and you strengthen it again. Or you can, if you're not scared of cutting your hair, you can cut it off and it's just going to grow, because all locks can do is grow. It always grows, so it will grow back. But yeah, hope that helped.
Thank you so much for that, Shay. I just want to say I did feel a bit red here, because you spoke about making sure that you are gentle with your hair, and seeing as we're in a safe space with friends, I have to confess that a few weeks ago I actually ended up having lost quite a bit of hair. That there's a little patch of my hair at the back that I kind of ended up. It's not. I haven't completely lost it, but I kind of lost a lot of hair there. So I'm now working to grow it back, because I was guilty of just combing the hair, and even though I use spray in my hair and make sure it's moisturized before I comb it, I would just be combing my hair and just combing it quite rough, and just assuming that that was fine. I'm taking the knots out of my hair. And it was only afterwards that I realized, wait a minute, there's a little bit at the back here that I've lost. So, when you said treat it like it's your baby, you really you spoke to me, Shay. You spoke to me. So thank you for that. I think
Okay.
that we're sharing confession hour. But yeah, I just wanted to say, unfortunately, I think we're going to end it for today, only because of the interests of time. I can see that there are people who want to ask more questions. If possible, maybe if it was okay with our brilliant speakers, if they could message you on your social media pages, perhaps, if you're okay with them DMing you on your social media pages, they could, if anyone has any more questions, they could do that, if that's okay. And this session has been incredibly informative. Thank you so much, Reese and Shay and Dr. Ingrid. It has been incredibly informative. So I'm now going to announce the end of the event. I want to thank all of our brilliant panelists for taking the time to speak on this panel. Thank you so much for your time. There's been a lot of back and forth. I've been messaging you all and sending you information, and thank you so much for your time and for spending your evening with us. It is greatly appreciated. I want to thank the Caribbean Links team for all of their hard work. I don't work alone. I have an amazing team that I work with, who are with me every step of the way, and who are always there to help and provide advice, and who all add their own unique flavor and their own unique things to this team. They all work incredibly hard. So thank you very much to the Caribbean Links team for all their help, participation, support, and incredible hard work. I finally want to thank you, the guests, for tuning in. Thank you so much for choosing to spend some of your Saturday afternoon with us as we have a nice conversation about hair and Caribbean culture and hair tips. Thank you all so much for the hair tips and sharing hair tips as well. Thank you all so much for your time. Thank you all so much for tuning in. It is greatly appreciated. I'm going to quickly pass over to my other amazing Caribbean Links team member, Marcy, who's going to tell you where you can follow us on social media.
Right, so we have Instagram, and it's Caribbean_links_group. And we also have a Twitter, which is @linkscaribbean. We have 2 more events coming up that are definite. On the 28th, we have another panel event on Caribbean history. And in December, we have one on health in the Caribbean. If you follow us on social media or are part of maybe some WhatsApp groups, then we're obviously going to be passing along all that information on those channels. So, keep your eyes open. And yeah, we're gonna announce, I think, maybe at the end of this month, the date for the December event. So that is yet to be determined.
Thank you very much for that, Marcia. Yes, next week, same time, 5:30. Please come. It's going to be Caribbean history with the one and only Professor Kahinde Andrews. So please, if you are free next week, please do come along. It's going to be brilliant. We're really looking forward to that. So if you are able to come, please do. And as Marcia said, we're also going to have an event in December on health in the Caribbean. So that is the end of the event, everyone. Thank you all so much for your time. Thank you for coming. We really appreciate you spending your time with us and for flying with us this Saturday afternoon. And we hope to see you at our next event. Have a lovely evening, everyone. And I wish you all a lovely, restful and peaceful weekend. Thank you all. Thank you for your time. Bye, everyone.
Thank you so much. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Much appreciated. Thank you.